welcome to the podcast Unguarded Minds. I am Desiree and this is Tammy, and we are here to talk about all of the messy things in life. And today, on our first episode on Valentine's Day, we are talking about who says love doesn't cost a thing. So, I was looking at stats yesterday, and it says that last year for Valentine's Day, $26 billion was spent on the holiday.
26 billion with a B. That's
Yes.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. One day.
One day.
I'm in the
Exactly.
wrong business.
So, I mean, it was the day before Christmas and we were in the stores and they were already putting Valentine's Day stuff out, which brings me to like the first topic of hype versus reality. What are your thoughts?
There's a huge hype. There's a huge hype. And I think that, over the years, it's Valentine's Day is so romanticized. I mean, look at any movie from when you were little growing up to, now holiday. I mean, there's all kinds of like movies that are out there based on Valentine's Day, based on one day. And it's all, yeah, I think that there's a big hype around it, but look at what's behind the hype. It's feeling connected, it's feeling wanted, it's feeling like you matter. And I wonder if that has a driving factor to
Well,
this
there's so
hype.
much like validation to it too. Like,
Validation on Valentine's Day.
yeah. Because if you're not like, we'll go into it, but like if you're not with somebody on Valentine's Day, or like in kindergarten, my son and my daughter, they'd come home and ask for money. It was $1 and they could have single roses delivered to friends or
Oh,
interests. And I was like, you're 5, you don't have an interest. So we'll just stick with delivered to friends. But they would spend $1 and kids would go through the hallways and go to classrooms and hand deliver single roses, and it was very much like a popularity contest, I think, and
hmm,
it was setting those expectations of validation so young.
yes,
I don't know.
yeah. And I don't even know, like, if they, I remember those Valentine grams or whatever, and it was like, even if you got one, it wasn't enough because someone next to you got three or five, and you're like, oh well, so I
Yeah.
think it's that comparing thing. You always compare up. But then going forward, what does that do to you in a relationship? I'd wonder, do you feel validated in your relationship if Valentine's Day goes by and you don't get flowers or you don't get chocolates? Like, how does that all equate to the your quality in your relationship, your satisfaction, your feeling needed? Oh, it's huge. No wonder there's a B after that.
And so much I didn't look up the stat, but I'm curious now, like what the statistic is like of people who are alone on Valentine's Day. Like, are the bars like packed on Valentine's Day with people who are all depressed?
Ah,
Like, I wonder what that looks like. But then you think about all the hype, it's ingrained in us so young. And then what does, like, is the hype in the stores and stuff? Is that for new relationships? Is that for older relationships? Because I know, like, Jesse and I have been married for 10 years. 10, well, I'm lying. Lying. We've been married for 14 years. But at like the 10-year mark, we kind of had that discussion like, I don't need jewelry. I don't need, you know, tons of flowers. I'm not a huge flower person anyway because I'm like,
mhm.
they die and they're super expensive. Um, like, buy me a plant that I could put in my garden, or I don't know, something like that. Don't buy me flowers. But we finally had that conversation. Like, we have other things we're trying to do and traveling and stuff like that. Let's omit the gifts, because if we see stuff throughout the year, like, I really want to omit, if there's any kids in the room, take them out now. But like, I really want to omit Christmas because like we do all these things all year. And
Desiree.
I'm like, you know how hard it was for my kids to come up with a Christmas list this year? I'm like, because you guys have everything. So like, I don't need all these fancy things on Valentine's Day or Christmas, because if we see things that makes us think of each other or that we know that they need or want, we do it all year. So like the hype in the stores, is that meant for new couples or the couples who are too scared to have the conversation or who have bad communication? Or is it just habitual at this point? Like it's just a routine? What are your thoughts?
So I guess I come at it from a different stance. I can tell Jim, and in our story, we've been together forever. We've been married for about 6 months now, and that's a whole long story for another podcast. Um, but hopefully he knows me well enough that I say, no, don't do anything. I don't need flowers. Da, da, da. He knows I am lying out of my teeth. So he'll get me flowers. He'll get me some chocolates. He'll get me just something little. It doesn't have to be ginormous. But I guess I look at it like that's one day out of the year that you have an extra opportunity to make each other feel special, and I don't know, I'm a mom. I've got two boys. They're 18 and 20 years old now, and one of them is like, I hate Valentine's Day. I'm not doing anything. In fact, if I have a girlfriend, I'll probably break up with her before Valentine's Day and get back
Oh
together
no.
after. And I'm like, oh my God, I've totally failed as a parent. um,
As long as
so
he
I,
doesn't do it over text, you're okay.
oh, yeah, I think it's different. I think that you've got to keep your relationship alive. You've got to
Mhm.
make it, I think that's the work in relationships, is making it fun, making each other feel like you're different to me than the guy that sacks my groceries at the grocery store, And I don't know, to me, like, Valentine's Day might stand out as just that extra opportunity to rekindle or remind each other, you're my person.
Yeah, no, I could completely see that for us. And I guess it's kind of has to do with like your love language. So gifts is
Mm.
not mine. I'm more
Mhm.
affirmations, but like, well, I don't know. We love chocolate and we love, the things that go with Valentine's Day, but we'll go to the store typically the day after Valentine's Day because I like to save some money when everything's 50% off, and we'll buy a couple
50%
boxes
off.
and like
Right.
lay in bed and watch movies. But the affirmations and things like that, and of course he'll bring the kids will get me flowers and stuff like that. But I'm more of an affirmation, like, you need to tell me every day how much you love me. Like, I need the affirmation versus the gift. Like,
Yeah,
the jewelry is going to get put in the jewelry box, or if we
right.
have big goals coming up,
Very
why
true.
spend that money?
Mhm.
I don't know. So
Well,
I guess
and
it
now
just
you're
depends.
talking, yeah. Now you're talking communication. Now you're
Mhm.
talking about being on the same page, and not only being able to communicate with your partner about what you need, but you have to know what you need for yourself too. And you're right, like those love languages. I love that test, the love languages, because I think it's been really eye-opening for people to realize, like, I am a gift person, and that's okay. It doesn't mean I'm shallow. I like gifts because that's how I grew up, or that's what I've always felt like was that's how I show my love, as I get people that, or acts of service or affirmations or the little things. So maybe that comes down to, are you really communicating with your partner, and are you really honest with yourself and your partner?
Yeah. And then I think it's hard too for people to have those conversations because it's routine, it's habitual. They maybe don't communicate. And I look at mine and Jesse's relationship a little bit different. If you ask him, we've been married for 50 years because we live together, we work together. We do all, he's like, we don't get that 8 hours that everybody else gets. So our
Oh.
marriage has tripled. Um,
Hmm.
but so we've learned,
It tripled.
we've
That's
learned
true.
very early on how to communicate. I mean, you have
Mm.
to. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not a gift person. And I don't know if it's part of me, like, I love to gift and I love to do things, but I like kind of clam up when it's focused back to me. I'm like, no, I don't
Hmm.
need it. I don't want it. Like I said, buy me something that I could like put in the garden to grow food to cook for you. Like, don't give me anything.
That's so
Um,
nice.
But that's just, but then those people who are stuck in that habitual repetitiveness of it, like, okay,
Mhm.
it's Valentine's Day, I have to buy something. To me, I feel like if you're not having those communication, like it truly doesn't mean anything at that point because you're just doing it out of habit. Like there's not
Right.
thought necessarily going into it. Like, okay, card check, box of chocolate check, flowers check, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Like where
Mm-hmm.
there's really not that sentimental value behind it. So like how would you
Absolutely.
approach or handle like teaching somebody how to have that conversation with their partner without being timid that they're going to offend them or
Yeah. Well, and I think that I'm always thinking about the why behind a behavior. So if you're nervous to talk to your partner about what you really want on Valentine's Day, for this example, I guess I'd ask more, is that coming from you? Like, are you nervous to communicate, or are you worried about how they're going to receive it? How are your conversations in the past? How did those go? Is it more around conflict avoidant type things? I think when you avoid something, your anxiety goes up. It's like the worst thing to do for anxiety is to avoid. So if you are really wanting something, or you want to have a conversation but you're avoiding it, I can't imagine that that's going to, you know, calm things down. It's more around, all right, back it up, even from Valentine's Day, even from having the conversation. Why are you nervous about speaking your mind?
mm, yeah, that's a great point. Now we've talked a lot about like being married and the couples part of it, but what about the single people? What is the best way for them to navigate like that loneliness on Valentine's Day? Because again, we started super young in school with this
Hmm.
expectation and we've tied validation to it and love and all the things. Now they're adults
Yeah.
and maybe they're single. Maybe your son broke up with them the day before Valentine's Day.
So he hasn't actually done that. So
No, I'm only kidding. But the people who like recently, got out of
yeah.
relationships or, maybe they're not pursuing relationships at this point, but this day hits them a little bit harder.
Hmm.
Like how do you enjoy Valentine's Day by yourself? Other than
Yeah.
indulge in a ton of chocolate.
Right. And a box of Kleenex. Um, I think that I almost wonder if people are sort of shifting away from it. Well, not with the 28 something $billion. I was just thinking, there's Galentine's Day. And
What
that's
is that?
where women, have you heard of Galentine's Day?
No.
Oh, Galentine's Day. So it's like when women are like, F this, whatever, I'm out of here. I don't need a man. I don't need someone to give me flowers. I'm going to buy my own flowers. Or my
Oh, the
girlfriends are
Swifties.
getting together. uh, yes. and they get together, and it's like they go out to dinner, they get each other a box of chocolates, I think it's I would wonder how much of the billions are definitely like married
Girlfriends
couples,
doing stuff for each other.
girlfriends doing stuff for each other. I don't know if there's a Valentine's Day. I don't know if that's a thing. I highly doubt it.
That
But
would be probably an increase in beer sales, not chocolate.
yes, yeah. And yeah, so I mean, I think that there's at the end of the day, it's about connection.
Mhm.
So whether you are connecting with your girlfriends, whether you're connecting with your kids, whether you're connecting with your parents, with your family, with friends, with a significant other, I think that it could go either way. It's a time that people can reflect and go, "Damn, I'm lonely." Why am I, again, the why? Why am I lonely? What do I need to do to get out there? Because I can guarantee you, no one's going to come knocking on your door saying, "Hey, you want a date?" You've got to
Yeah.
get yourself out there.
Yeah.
But I think that it could go either way, and I think that there's a lot of pressure that people feel around, especially single and married. I think there's some pressure of like, what if I don't show up the way my partner wants me to, or oh, I really want to ask this person out, but I'm afraid. I've got a lot of social anxiety. What if they say no? There's a whole rejection thing. So, Valentine's Day is like, oh, is this my opportunity? And then if they don't do it because they're struggling with stuff, then is that like a big fail? I don't know. I think it could go either way. I think that you've got to, that's that self reflection, being able to ask yourself, where am I in my life and what do I want?
Yeah, and that would come with like building your confidence too, to be okay with
Oh yeah.
being alone. I would struggle like it's been a really long time, but I've always struggled with like sitting with my own thoughts. I've told my husband like we watched that show Alone and stuff and I'm like I would go nuts. I'd be like tap me out now. I cannot sit with the thoughts in my head by myself for that long. I would go crazy. But like besides that part, like I think it's just having that confidence. Like this is not a symbol of validation for me. This
Mm,
it's okay if I'm not settling. It's okay if I haven't found the right person yet. It's okay to sit home and watch movies and eat a box of chocolate or buy myself something or go out with girlfriends or guy friends or whatever and be okay with that.
yeah.
So I mean,
I love that you keep weaving that validation word back in here because validation is such an internal sense. It's not external. You know, you can get external validation, but if you don't have anything internal that it can stick to, it's just going to go in your life and out of your life.
yeah,
And so you're right. Like that's that sense of like what are you doing to validate yourself? It's your internal dialogue. It's, if you're constantly looking for external validation, it's
mhm.
risky. It works. I mean, who
And
doesn't
it's not.
love to?
And I
Yeah.
think people are confusing the validation too. Like everybody's on TikTok, and some of us more than others, and we go down rabbit holes. But like
Hmm.
you see a lot more of this false validation where they're on camera and it's just too much. Where it's like I don't believe you feel that way off this camera. Like you are really
Mm,
trying to push that and so I think it is a buzzword and it's the way to show up, but I don't feel like people are authentically validating themselves like the way that they should when especially with social media the way it is. You never know what is actually going on behind the scenes,
right.
but validation doesn't have to be loud. Like it doesn't have to be over the
Oh, I
top.
love that.
It's
Yeah.
just it's how you feel. Like validation is for you and you only. It's not confidence. I think
Hmm.
that like identifying those are two very different things. I could walk down the street and look and appear very confident and be confident, but I'm not going to wear my validation like, on my sleeve. Um, where a lot of people that you're seeing it a lot more try to be portrayed through like social media and videos and
I love
things like
that.
that.
And I
But
think, it goes into that internal sense, like your gut feeling when you're talking to someone. You can tell if there's that true authenticity and when there's not.
yeah,
And it probably backfires on people because they think that they're showing up and being all authentic, but when it's fake, you don't get that reinforcement that you're looking for. And then I bet they get into a cycle of like, what's wrong with me? Why? Based on likes, based on,
yeah,
all of the things that social media does. But yeah, I think
the
you're spot on. I
vanity.
think that yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I don't
Well,
think
as
it's
business
it's
owners, we know that likes and shares and follows and all of that vanity does not equivalent to money. So I don't care as much about the likes. Um,
I read
but
this study that they did a study, and I think it was dopamine that when they watched people and when they would get a comment or a like or the little number pops up in your phone or whatever, that every time that happened there was a surge of dopamine. And it was fascinating. It was like that's why people get hooked on this stuff. It's very, yeah, but
I
it's
was
what you do
watching
with
a
it.
YouTube video similar, but it was about the addiction part of it, the addiction to social media. And
Yeah.
they gave the phone to like a gorilla or an ape or something. And he was sitting there and he was watching them and he was flipping up, watching TikTok. And it was like it became habitual for him that when it ended,
Wow.
he just kept, and I was like, it's an animal. I mean, they're
Oh,
super smart animals, but it was an
yeah.
animal that within a
Yeah.
matter of minutes of watching TikTok knew exactly what to do and had no desire to put that phone down.
Yep.
I was
And
like,
so then here comes Valentine's Day and it's in the store since Halloween and it's on every movie that you watch and then it's, the heart hanging on everybody's door and whatever it is, however that looks, and it's
mhm,
constantly pushed that Do you have a Valentine? Do you have a Valentine? Do you have a Valentine? Are you a loser? Are you alone? Are you rejected? I mean, oh my God,
And
that's the
on social
message.
media, you can't go through
Yep.
TikTok without seeing a Valentine's Day ad, whether it's a
Yeah.
sweater, you know, bouquet, like all the, the stores and everybody pushing their marketing to get in front of you, the
Yeah.
jewelry stores, all the stuff. And even if you are in a relationship and you're seeing those, it's setting this, potentially for some people, setting this expectation of, well, they're advertising this, so all these men must be out there buying this and this and this and this for their wives. So if my husband doesn't get me
Mm,
all of that, then he doesn't care, or he doesn't love me, or
let me.
so
Yeah.
I just, there's so many layers to it, and
Yeah.
it's all based on expectation and communication too.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
marketing, the power of marketing.
Yeah. So what
Interesting.
do you have planned for Valentine's Day this year?
Nothing yet. I haven't even thought about it.
Because you told Jim not to get you anything, so you're just going to wait and see.
I mean, he better be planning something.
I'll make sure to send him this link. No, it'll be too late. It comes out on Valentine's Day.
Yeah. And you know what? I think you're right. Like the busier, I mean, everybody's busy, everybody's got things going on. And I think it does come down to communication. And because I've got kids and Jim and I, we didn't live together and we don't live together, which is part of the other podcast. um we might not even see each other on Valentine's Day, so we might go out and celebrate it later. We might have a special dinner later or earlier, depending on schedules and when I see him. So yeah.
Well, that's the best way to do it. You don't have to deal with the crowd. That's my
Yeah.
thing about holidays
Yeah.
too. Like, I don't want to deal with the masses. I don't want to
Hmm.
wait 2 hours to be seated for dinner. I don't. So, like, if we do take special time for ourselves, not necessarily gifts, but we're like, hey, we'll go out to dinner. We do it
Hmm.
like during the week before Valentine's Day or 3 days before
Hmm.
or something, because I'm like, I don't
Agreed.
want to be out there.
Right.
And then, not only that, but your dinner keeps getting interrupted because everybody thinks proposing on Valentine's Day is the best thing. And yeah, it's too much.
Oh,
I'm like,
that was
oh,
that was one of my dreams growing up, is getting proposed to on Valentine's Day.
did Jim propose on Valentine's Day?
No.
So you didn't communicate it with him.
In fact, we got engaged. I was just looking yesterday, 3 years ago, 4 years
Oh,
ago, 3 years
oh,
ago, maybe 4 years ago. It was 2020. So that would be 4 years ago. We got engaged yesterday. Yeah. And then we
wow.
just got married 6 months ago. I told you we're taking it slow. We'll move in
Yeah.
together one of these days.
10 years together, 4 years engaged,
Yeah.
6 months married.
Yeah.
That's going to be an interesting podcast.
The
Maybe
key to
we'll
a
bring
happy
Jim on as a
relationship.
guest.
Oh my God. That'd be so funny. Yeah. He would hate that.
Well, I think that wraps us
Um,
up for Valentine's Day. This is our first episode. We hope that you enjoyed spending time with us. Like,
yes.
follow, share all the things. But let us know, what do you do for Valentine's Day? What are your expectations? How do you feel about it? Let us know, and we will talk to you guys soon.